I'm back with another video here on YouTube. If you've been watching, then you may have seen me talk about a game called Dungeon GPT. This is a game that I have built before, and it is an AI-powered dungeon master. So what I want to do here today is I want to look at quests and campaigns. It's fine to be talking to an LLM and to have some sort of story as you would with Dungeons and Dragons, but how do you actually go through a story which is structured? How do you get towards a goal which is predetermined and not completely free form? So it's not the LLM just making it up as it goes, but actually there's a story which has been preset, as you would if you were playing with a human. If you have a human dungeon master, then they will come up with the campaign, they will come up with the quest, all of the tasks perhaps in between that. Some of it they may make up as they go, which is fine, and the AI can do that. But would it not be more correct if there's an actual campaign with an actual proper end outcome that's predetermined? That's been something that I've been battling with, and is something that I've implemented. I think that it works, but it may not be perfect. There's actually an interesting battle here between determinism and non-determinism. Determinism is obviously easy. 1 + 1 = 2. That's what you get inside code, such as within JavaScript. It computes 1 + 1 is 2 and everything's fine. Non-determinism is obviously the LLM. So whenever you give a prompt to an LLM, the response that you get back may very well be quite creative, and it may not give you the same response back every time, which we know. You can turn the temperature down in order to get more deterministic results, but I don't think that quite guarantees a fully deterministic result. It can be, of course, that if you were to ask who is the president, and it will give you the answer as who the president is, but the exact wording within that sentence can change every time that you ask. The overall meaning, the semantics of the overall sentence is the same, but the specifics are different. And that is a challenge that has to be dealt with. It's no longer just 2 as a number, it could be 2 with letters if you were to ask what is 1 + 1. And you have to know how to parse that and deal with it. And that's something I want to say here. So here is a screenshot of the chat interface for the game Dungeon GPT, which is live. You can sign up, you can play. It's online at dungeongpt.xyz. I'm showing you the party members, I'm showing you the conversation here, but what I'm not showing you here is obviously the back-end code as to how the questing works. And it's something I've spent quite a bit of time on and had a bit of a headache over. And again, I think it's working, but I also still have some fears. My first attempt to make this work was to have a simple text marker system, which still exists, but let me explain this a little bit clearer. So there are some campaigns which are pre-written for you, which you can access whenever you get to the website. Within one of these campaigns, which is pre-written, predetermined, there are 4 milestones. I think previously it was 3, but now it's 4. And going through each of these within the game, you would be typing back and forth with the LLM, and it would decide at some point that you've completed the milestone. And in order to capture that on the code side, on the game side, there needs to be some sort of text marker, which is this milestone complete or complete milestone. It's a little marker that comes back in the response from the LLM to say, okay, this milestone has been completed, therefore, please mark this as done. And it worked, but I think it was fragile. So what I've done since then is I've reworked things such that we have milestones which are fully deterministic, such as go to this location or defeat this boss. And then there's milestones which are narrative based, such as I'm going to show you here, where you have to convince, say, an NPC in order to do something. Like, I want to convince you to join the resistance, or whatever, as we have here with milestone 2. And I hope that in doing so, that the overall determinism of the whole game is improved, which it should be, and therefore the gaming experience is more robust against not necessarily cheating, because because it's not really a multiplayer game, you're only cheating yourself, but rather such that the LLM sort of can't just refuse to accept that you've completed a milestone, or that you complete a milestone accidentally. Because obviously whenever you're here and you're questing, If you want to kill some NPC, you could say, oh, I kill the NPC with my axe, and then again later you could say, oh, actually I killed it with a sword. Or in another game it might be that you threw your axe and it bounced off the wall and then it killed the dragon or whatever. Obviously that may not be great if it's sort of very vague, or you kill a dragon with like a straw or something really random. That's not particularly robust, and it somewhat breaks immersion, but then at the same time, if that's how you want to play, that's how you want to play. You could go into ChatGPT or whatever and have a campaign like that where you can just type to it and say, oh, I want to do this, and it'll accept that. But I think having determinism, having some stronger rules is better. It makes it more like actual Dungeons and Dragons with a human dungeon master, because a human dungeon master can say, no, that doesn't sound realistic. Whereas AI might be more forgiving and more lenient, say, oh, okay, it doesn't matter. So I think I've set the scene here as to why having some sort of questing system makes sense. I think I've outlined why it's difficult, because doing it with text is difficult. However, there might be a way that we can sort of mix and match full determinism in code with a little bit of the softness of non-determinism that you get in an LLM. So here I'm going to do this test. It's going to run in the background. It's actually going to use Gemini. It's just what I have, the way I've got it wired up on my local testing machine. So to complete milestone 2, you have to convince the silver guard to join your resistance. And so you're going to try to convince the guard captain, and I'm going to send this now, and hopefully that's going to work. So it's testing. This is all in real time, and I'm hoping, yes. So I tested this earlier and it worked, and I've tested it again. Now this is real time, so this is actually going to Gemini 3, Gemini 3 Flash. The prompt is going with my text. It's going all the way to Google servers. It's being processed, and it's being pinged back with this milestone marker in the text, in the response, which is being parsed, and this testing page is saying marker detected, therefore we can complete this milestone. And if you look above, this milestone is complete. Now, obviously, I could be faking this, and you could be saying to me, "Oh, but how do I know that you're not actually faking this?" Well, however, the thing is, apart from there's an AI response here, which I guess I could have coded. The code is on GitHub, so you can try this for yourself if you so really desperately want to, or you can just take my word for it. I'm not saying that this is the perfect system, but it does seem to work. So we don't see what the prompt is, because other than my text here, there's a bit more to the prompt around that, which is called like the Dungeon Master Protocol. And this is the response, Captain Alistair, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't really matter. There is a response from the LLM. It's some sort of creative response. And of course, at the end, what do you do? Which inside, when you're playing the game, you expect that. So when you're inside Dungeon GPT, you expect, what do you do? As in, what do you do next, as opposed to just leaving you at some sort of final resting place. So that is the narrative side, the softer side, the non-deterministic side. As a way of trying to test the deterministic side, so without playing through a full game, I've coded up another testing page with 2 of the template campaigns, Heroic Fantasy, and one is Grimdark Survival. You'll see here that there's 4 milestones. Again, as before, it's the same campaign. And we're going to just test this by triggering each of the actions, which will flag in the back end that something's true or false. Notice here that you have to complete the first 2 milestones before you can attempt to do the third, because the third and fourth are locked. So let's say, for the sake of argument, we can do 1, and it's marked, it's complete. Obviously, there's nothing tricky here. I mean, doing this is simple. It's just a simple calculation, essentially, or a check in the back end. Then we complete number 2, which is narrative. So yes, it should really be, sending a prompt to an LLM and then getting a response and parsing it. But now we can see that milestone 3 is opened up. So that means this is me just trying to demonstrate that you have to do 1 and 2 first. And also notice that number 4 doesn't open until you do number 3. So number 3 is that you have to reach a certain location in order to fight the boss. So you can't just fight the boss without getting to that location. It's not necessary, I suppose, that this is a separate milestone, but it was easier to code it like that. Milestone 3 complete, and then of course defeat the Shadow Overlord, which is the boss for this. and then you click that. You can do one of the things is to simulate a fake event, such as you acquired an item, and when you press that, it should say it doesn't actually do anything. So it's basically trying to fool the sort of the parsing system in the back end that with some sort of spurious action which doesn't do anything. And it was a way to try to show the robustness of the protocol that's being created, that you actually have to do the correct action in order to trigger the completion of a milestone, which might be, of course, like going to a certain location and finding a certain item. There's a game mechanic that was built into the code for finding an item within the archives. So find the hidden map in the archives of Oakhaven. So you have to go to Oakhaven and then you have to go to the archives in order to find the item. There's a mechanic for that. It's fully deterministic. Number 2 was to convince the Silver Guard. And so you convince the captain, which is the one I just showed you in the previous tab, which is fully narrative. So you have to talk to an LLM in order to do that. And then the 3rd, which is also deterministic, go to this location. And then 4, of course, again, deterministic again, where you have to fight an NPC. So that's most of what I wanted to say, which I thought was interesting. And again, I think it works. I think it is a little bit fragile still. It's not going to be perfect, but it was better than assessing all of these milestones via an LLM using this sort of marker system. There's still things that can be done here to improve it, but again, I kind of repeating this, I hope that it works well. This has been one of the main sort of sticking points in my head as to how much should Dungeon GPT be a game and how much should it be freeform with an LLM. Being completely freeform means that you can kind of type whatever you want and get back whatever you want, and there's a good chance that you just veer off and do something strange, and the immersiveness may eventually be broken. If you go too game-like, then you're really killing this feeling of playing with a human dungeon master. And that's what I wanted to really capture in this, is trying to capture the experience of playing with a human dungeon master even though you don't have that. It's like a sort of simulated experience, knowing that it will never be perfect, but it should be good enough such that you can have fun playing this game. So that's pretty much everything I want to say. This has been something of a sort of a research topic. I haven't seen too many other people talking about this. There are some people thinking about it and talking about it. Maybe there's other people like me who are somewhere out there on the internet who haven't really become famous in the way that I'm not either. And we're just kind of struggling on the same problem. So it'd be great to hear from more people if people want to comment, if they've been building something similar, or if they've been thinking about something similar and they've been thinking of similar problems and maybe what their approach is. So it'd be great to have comments. It'd be great if you could like the video as well. That always helps with the algorithm. And also subscribe if you haven't already. Not really much more to say, but hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks very much.